It's a Titanic showdown that probably won't make as much money as Titanic. Hello everyone and welcome to Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry and today I want to talk about the new big movie coming out, which is Godzilla vs. Kong. Now this was kind of a fun one for me to look at because as a kid I really enjoyed Godzilla and was really disappointed when Godzilla in 1985 wasn't very good at all. It's been kind of fun over the last few years to see some more movies that have, I think, lived up a little bit better to the scope and scale of what these big Titanic monsters are supposed to be. I think the first Godzilla, I think 2014 when it came out, was pretty fun. The last one, King of the Monsters, I don't think was quite as good. I'm not going to totally get into that now, but I really did enjoy Kong Skull Island. And in saying that I want to introduce the idea that kind of underscores this whole review, which is that evaluating these movies, you kind of have to put a certain set of parameters in place that may not be there for others, which sounds like an excuse, and it basically is, because these aren't meant to be high cinema. They're not meant to be really fantastic. They could definitely do better, but we're basically looking at big screen spectacle and mayhem and chaos. And so far, I've enjoyed what I've been seeing over the last few years. But Godzilla vs. Kong, I think, is going to be a great example of what is good and what is falling short in that little subgenre at the moment. So Godzilla vs. Kong picks up a few years after some of the more recent sequels. Of course, on the Godzilla thread, which has been played out in contemporary times, in the last movie, Godzilla put down all of his competitors and became king of the monsters and is the reigning alpha titan around the world. And then the only Kong movie we've had so far from a few years ago was Kong Skull Island, which was set back in the 1970s, kind of paired against Vietnam. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about it, was kind of the setting. And so now we're leaping forward for Kong several decades, not so much time for Godzilla, but now in contemporary times, we're kind of in a situation where Godzilla is still kind of king of the heap, but Kong has been placed in kind of a Truman Show-like sanctuary on Skull Island. And he's only now getting wise to the idea that he's actually being entrapped. There's also kind of a subplot through here, not even necessarily a subplot, but the idea of this hollow Earth, which the scientists and humans have been figuring out, that there's this interconnected network of channels that go throughout the Earth's core. That is what the Titans, these big monsters, use to get around. And so obviously the movie itself is a showdown between Godzilla and Kong, or at least that's kind of what's presented. And I'm going to try to analyze this in as spoiler-free a way as possible, but there might be some mild warnings to be given. So the plot kicks off with Godzilla attacking a Gulf Coast installation of a corporate company called Apex, which is doing a lot of scientific research. And so the launch of the movie is the idea that, hey, Godzilla was supposed to be protecting us, but now he's attacking us again. What's going on? What do we need to do to stop him? And so some of the scientists decide that, oh, okay, well, let's get Kong involved here because he might be able to solve the problem. And so the idea is to kind of get them together because two alphas don't want to coexist, and that one is going to have to outfox or defeat the other one. That's really kind of the most basic way to look at it. But unfortunately, there are a lot of other, layered subplots that I think get a little bit convoluted. So the story is driving to the point where we get these two together, and they have kind of an early matchup at sea, which is kind of interesting and kind of fun. But it isn't until the end of the film that the big climax is supposed to happen. And again, at the risk of spoiling things in a mild way, one of the things that is both interesting and I think a little questionable about this movie is that it's not just about Kong and Godzilla. There is a third competitor who is introduced partway through the movie, and I'm still not entirely sure. While I appreciate its inclusion, it does seem to distract, and it almost makes me wonder if this should have been two separate movies. The clearest way I think I can put this in perspective is that this movie reminded me a lot of Batman v Superman from a couple of years ago from Zack Snyder, and mostly in bad ways. In that you take it on its own, and I think Godzilla versus Kong is a completely passable, workable, watchable monster movie, right? There's a lot of really incredible CGI and lots of mayhem and chaos. You kind of have to ignore the fact that thousands of people are being killed and murdered in the middle of this, which is, I think, one of those things that you just kind of have to set aside if you're going to, watch these monster movies. But it's the idea here is this is supposed to be a build-up between two characters that we want to see go at it. And as I've reflected on Batman v Superman over the years, I've kind of realized that, one of the ways that movie really fell short was that, Superman is this huge, huge cultural icon, and Batman is this huge, huge cultural icon. And the idea of finally bringing them together is supposed to be just something that is really going to be memorable, really going to be fantastic, and just really, really entertaining. And I think to a lesser degree, Godzilla vs. Kong is trying to do the same thing. And yes, they've each had their own movies, and so there's a little bit of build-up. But I haven't quite got the sense, not nearly as much as I think that I should, that this is the showdown I've been waiting for, right? And I say that as a fan of the previous movies and of kind of like the monsters in general. And so in the sense that Batman v Superman was a bit of a letdown in terms of bringing together two icons, I think Godzilla vs. Kong has the same problem. And that's why I ultimately feel like Godzilla vs. Kong is an entertaining movie, but not necessarily something you're going to want to watch over and over again. The story, especially kind of when you get down to the human characters, Millie Bobby Brown is back, and we also have Alexander Skarsgård, and there's Rebecca Hall is here, and she's got kind of an adopted daughter who there's always kind of this monster has a connection with a little kid dynamic that they're using in these movies that is nice, but might be a little bit overdone. One of the things, my big takeaway just after watching this the first time, is that I don't feel like there is a signature style or passion to the movie that really makes me want to go back and rewatch it over and over again. It's definitely the kind of fun movie that you can put on with some friends and enjoy kind of at arm's length, but it's not the kind of thing that I think you're going to want to rewatch. And so, though I definitely want to acknowledge some of the good dynamics and the good points, I don't think that you're going to be colossally disappointed if you go and watch this movie. But 5 years from now, I don't think that people are really going to remember this for very much. And that's why I would land on about 2.5 stars out of 4 as a rating, which is to say that there's definitely some good to point out, but not enough to really follow through on its potential. And that's keeping in mind, of course, that this is not supposed to be the most intelligent movie. You definitely don't want to ask questions along the way, especially as you kind of get into the whole hollow Earth, and the idea that the Earth's core is not molten lava, but there's a little eco environment down there. But again, I don't want to spoil too much. But this is definitely, I think the expression people like to use is the turn off your brain type of movie, and this one definitely qualifies, and not always in the best ways, but still fun. It's rated PG-13 for kind of your typical mayhem. There's not a whole lot of violence to humans. It's really just kind of a CGI monsters tearing each other apart type of violence, and so it's definitely in that PG-13 realm. A little bit of profanity, really nothing too objectionable outside of that. Clocking in just under 2 hours. It's it's a movie you're going to want to watch once, but probably not revisit. So as far as a rating goes, I'm going to give Godzilla vs. Kong 3 stars out of 4. It definitely has what you want in terms of a big screen spectacle. There's all kinds of CGI action and a lot of stuff that's going to be fun to see in the theater, and a lot of mayhem. And I think for a lot of people, if not most people, that's really what they're looking for here, and that's what they'll get. But the little things, as far as the plot and the development and the little details, the kind of things that make it a movie that you'd want to go see over and over again and really become a classic, they aren't really there for this one. And so that's why it would fall a little bit short. So what's your favorite monster movie? Leave me your answer in the comments below. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been Movie Reviews by Josh. My name is Josh Terry, and I'd be really grateful if you'd subscribe to my channel on your way out. Leave your notifications on so you can see the new reviews as soon as they're posted. And in the meantime, have a good time out there.